the league does not support any party or candidate. Our object is to get as much information out to the people so they can make an informed vote, and that's our function. Tonight's debate is being recorded and will be made available to all of the local media. And unfortunately, we tonight did not have our voters' guides. They weren't available to us. So the local ones will be distributed around town in the libraries and different places. So they were, the local one was in the Sunday paper. So hopefully you benefit from that. It is that we had the league set up a vote 411, and you can go in and put your address in there and get a customized ballot of what it's going to be when you go to a vote, which will be very helpful if you're interested in that. And get it at vote411.org. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I'm not going to stay here very long, but I want to thank all the league members that are here that are participating in setting this up and getting it going. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our moderator, Kayleen Ray.
Good evening. My name is Kayleen Ray, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's candidates forum and debate. Only contested primary races will be featured tonight, and only races at the county level. Please keep in mind that primary elections are held by the political parties to choose the candidate that will represent their party in the general election in November. When you vote in a primary election, you must choose which party primary you're going to vote in, either the Democratic or the Republican. And you may vote only once. In other words, only in one. And only once in one. As a result, each race is going to be among candidates of only one party. Because there are really two elections occurring for each office, it's always a challenge in primary elections to decide how to best present the candidates in a debate. Tonight we will be presenting all of the candidates in contested elections for a position, both Republican and Democratic, at the same time. The candidates in a party will be seated together. We'll have the Republicans on my right and the Democrats on my left. So remember that these are two separate elections. You will not have both Republicans and Democrats on your ballot. Sometimes that's confusing in primary elections. The candidates for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 2, please take your places at the table. I'd like to note that with regard to the voter's guide, Mr. Elshoff's name is misspelled in one place in the voter's guide. We apologize for that. The candidates for this place are James D. Elshoff and Shane Scott on the Republican side, Maggie Hernandez Moreno, Sandra Sepulveda Lopez, and Scott Courtney on the Democratic side. We'll begin with 2-minute opening statements. Mr. Elshoff, would you please begin?
Good evening. Thank you for your invitation. I'm J.D. Elshoff. I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 2. I've been an attorney for 31 years. I practiced in Montana. I was a Justice of the Peace up there, and I served honorably. I'm currently the teen court judge for the city of San Marcos. Some of the children or grandchildren of some of the people that are here this evening have been before me. The names, of course, are confidential. I don't get paid for that. I do it because I care about families. Before I moved to Montana, I was a booking clerk for the San Diego County Sheriff for 2 years. Then I moved to Montana, passed the bar, clerked for the Montana Supreme Court, opened up my practice, did about 2,000 divorces, custody fights. That's all I wanted to do. Then why am I here? Okay, 28 years ago, I met my Texas wife there, and in 2003, she said she wanted to come home. So I said yes. I think I said yes, dear. But I said, you're going to pick a good city. And she picked the best, San Marcos, Texas. A lot of greed does not give one common sense, but neither does it take away your common sense. Okay? Common sense is a trait that has developed over many years of focusing on hard work and close attention to detail. law degree does provide is the ability of how to research cases and get the job done efficiently. One of the questions that was asked, and what I'm sure we'll be asked in a few moments, is what's the most important thing to do with the Justice Court? Get the backlog of cases current. Because when Judge Hernandez passed away last April, the vacancy was not filled. It was all dumped on court number 1. Okay? I'm going door to door, and one of the issues that I hear from time to time is people think they're dangerous felons are being released with an inconsistent bail. Here's the way to set bail. It's called the bail statute. There's a bail schedule and every county needs to have one. I teach that in Texas State. Thank you.
Mr. Scott.
Hello, my name is Shane Scott. I'm running for Justice Peace, Place 1, Precinct 2. My interest in the JP position goes all the way back to the 8th grade. All the way back to the 8th grade, where I would, during the summertime, go to the local courthouse and listen to case after case. And during that time, I really realized the link that you have as a citizen to the community through that court system, and how that is our resolution area as a citizen, that we don't have to get attorneys involved, and we are allowed to have the full layout of trial with juries, and if you want an attorney, you can have an attorney. But it is just our link to allow us to be citizens and look at citizens without all the maneuvers that legalities can play in higher courts. My background recently is 5 years of municipal government as a city council member. I learned a lot about the community and how diverse we are and the special needs of our community as a whole. I have a degree in criminal justice from Texas State University. I was a single dad for many years, and I truly understand the importance of our school system and how it affects us as parents and our day-to-day needs, you know, trying to raise our children in this community as well. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I just truly love this community and enjoy being part of it the entire time. I will be committed 24/7. That's really why, and the most important part to me is being committed to this community and letting the community have a chance to hear their voice and not get tied up into the legalities of whether you're a lawyer or not. Thank you.
Ms. Moreno.
We're kind of in a tight squeeze here, so I think I'm just going to stay sitting. Good evening. I want to thank the League for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy evening to come and listen to this event. My name is Maggie Hernandez Moreno, and I'm seeking your nomination as the Democratic candidate for the Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 2. I'm a lifelong resident of San Marcos and a graduate of San Marcos High School. I have earned over 100 hours towards my degree in criminal justice with a minor in legal studies from the University of Texas at San Antonio. I believe that before people care how much you know, they must know first how much you care. Serving on the board of Southside Community Center and as a ruling elder at Memorial Presbyterian Church have allowed me to show my community that I'm aware of what is going on and what the needs are. My work in the public health field has allowed me to help others while developing supervisory skills, fiscal responsibility, and a working knowledge of medical terminology that can come in handy with inquests. I'm running for election because I want to see this court restored and back to being one of the most productive courts within the county. If elected, I will work together with the other Justice Court and the county commissioners to restore the level of previously provided by this court. I will work to maintain a superior level of service and cooperation with law enforcement and the general public.
Ms. Lopez.
Hi, good evening. I'm not good with the microphone, so I just apologize ahead of time. My name is Sandra Sepulveda Lopez. I'm also a lifelong resident here in San Marcos, Texas. I am a mother of 4. My husband Lucio and I are happy to be raising our children in my hometown. For the last 10 years, I've worked for the Hays County Constable's Office as a justice clerk. In that time, I've been able to gain an immeasurable amount of invaluable experience working firsthand with process that comes straight out of the Justice Court as well as other courts here in Hays County. I've built wonderful relationships with the people who help govern our community, and I would like to put those to work with the Justice of the Peace Office. I think it's going to make me very successful if elected. I am also a student over at Texas State University. I'm a senior. I'll be graduating this fall with my criminal justice degree and my minor in forensic psychology. When you couple that together, I think that I have a firm foundation to build a very efficient and effective office to serve you in this community for many years to come. I thank you.
Mr. Courtney.
Excuse me, I'm a little scratchy with cedar or whatever's got myself, everybody else. My name is Scott Courtney. Many of y'all know me, but for those of you that do not, just to let y'all know, I'm a practicing attorney here in Hays County. I've been practicing for over 21 years. I'm board certified in criminal law. I made San Marcos my home by choice. My wife and I moved back up here almost 12 years ago. I'm a Texas State, formerly Southwest Texas State alumni, receiving a Bachelor of Arts, a double major in political science and geography, and then went on to Thurgood Marshall School of Law and have been practicing criminal law ever since. I chose to run late, primarily, and the only reason is that I think that this particular seat in our community has grown to the point where the complexity of offices of this office are such that I believe that a lawyer should sit if available. It's certainly not because I have anything against my two opponents. I think they're fine young women. I've come to know them, their families. I think we're lucky in this community to have people like them in our community and willing to step up to try to further serve our community. I applaud them for it. I admire them. I just simply think that at this particular juncture of this office, I think it's important for somebody that has the experience to jump in and get this court up and running as quickly as possible. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the questions, but I think one important thing is accessibility. This is not a job that I think is a 9 to 5. It goes far beyond that. That's what I've been doing for the past 21 years in running my law practice. I don't have regular hours. My phone rings all the time, and that's when you have to be willing to go and do the job. I'm willing to do the job for this community.
Our first lead question. What is your highest priority as Justice of the Peace? Mr. Elshoff?
Thank you. The highest priority for Justice of the Peace is to bring the backlog current, because justice delayed truly is justice denied. Okay? It's not fair that Court 1 has had to shoulder all those cases. They could have been filled, but it was not filled. Now it's going to be filled, and I hope that you feel that with myself. Backlog of cases to bring the case log current.
Mr. Scott?
Biggest complaint that I've actually heard, and there's no fingers being pointed anywhere, is there's just been a lack of timely effectiveness in responding to needs of the community. And I've heard it from a couple different levels, and there's different reasons for that. And to me, that's not as important as just making sure that we get back on track. I heard Ms. Prado say earlier that basically she has brought all those levels back as far as the caseload and stuff like that. My number one thing would just be efficiency, effectiveness, and be 24/7 available for the community.
Ms. Moreno?
I believe that the highest priority should be to uphold the work that has been done by Judge Prado. She has brought 2 courts into compliance, and so we are lucky to be inheriting a court where we aren't going to be backlogged or going to risk being fined. I think the highest priority is going to be to work with the JP 1-1 judge to alleviate some of the burden that has been felt by that court, to work a schedule with them, to allow courtroom time to match with what's being done in the community. I think it's important to set up a schedule for magistration as well as a schedule for on-call services so that not one judge is taking the burden of it, but instead it is being divided equally to better serve our community. Thank you.
Ms. Lopez?
I think that the highest priority for me is going to be the obvious. We have to reestablish and reorganize this department. It hasn't been a standalone office for the last almost 9 months now. Judge Prado's done an excellent job of bringing it into compliance. We've got to make sure that when we do get into office, whichever one of the candidates is the one who assumes office, that they not only understand the function of the department, that they are able to keep it in compliance, they're able to make sure that the staff is trained efficiently to be able to serve the community effectively. We want to make sure that community service, customer service, and just the general overall efficiency of the office is at the highest level that we can make it. And I believe that my experience working with the Justice Court through the Constable's Office and with the other courts in the county system is going to make me very qualified to handle that department effectively. Thank you.
Mr. Courtney?
I think it's difficult to put one single priority on this job. I would agree with all the candidates up here. Each of their priorities are extremely important. But the most important priority of any JP is the rule of law. Period. Rule effectively, rule right, rule in accordance with the law, rule swiftly. Now, saying that, one other priority that I think has been lacking in this particular area is how the justice of the peace touches on all the other parts of the system. The district judges, the county judges, the constable, the district attorney, the private bar, law enforcement. All of those elements come together at the JP's office. And it's important for the JP to have good relationships with all of those parties, understand what they need, understand how the JP can make the system work more efficiently, more effectively, but most importantly, protect the citizens' rights while doing it. Thank you.
Mr. Elson, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
The JP Court is not just a fun job that anyone can have. It takes some legal knowledge. My experience as having served as a justice of the peace will have me up and running the very first day. There's no downtime necessary for that.
Next question. How would you weigh the facts in a case to determine the amount of a bail bond? Mr. Scott, begin with that, please.
I don't know all the ins and outs on what the fact as far as the amounts of the bills, but I understand some of that's regulated by law, and I think it's going to definitely depend on the nature of the crime, and I think you have a certain way, protocol that you have to actually follow it, and I'm sure that's something that they actually teach you when you do come into like the JP, go to these classes, they make sure you are in law and compliance with all the regulatory requirements. So at this time, I don't know the exact numbers of that.
Ms. Moreno?
I feel that we should use common sense when setting bonds. If we've got people in front of us who are being charged with nonviolent crimes, then we should do a good job of trying to make sure that we set a bond that is reasonable to keep our jails from getting overcrowded. If there are people who are in jail simply because they cannot afford to pay the fines, then the problem is we as taxpayers pick up that bill to house those inmates in other county jails. So we do need to do a good job to make sure that those who are a risk to the citizens of our city and to law enforcement, that we are making sure that those who are violent offenders and are a threat to our community are not allowed to be put back on the street to possibly injure someone else.
Ms. Lopez?
I agree with everyone sitting here on this panel this evening. The one thing that we do need to remember and keep in mind is that bail is not a punishment. It simply ensures that the individual is going to appear for their next court date. So we need to be mindful of that. One of the tools that we have in the county is a system called Odyssey. If you work for the county, you either love it or hate it. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Odyssey. But it does give us the opportunity to take a look at the back history of an individual who's appearing before you that day. Whether they're a violent offender, is this their first offense? Have they offended multiple times? I think that it's incumbent upon us as justices of the peace or as magistrates to look at that and assess the rate of possible danger that they might provide or possess to the society. I think that it's very important that we look at all of our resources and use all of our tools that are available to us to make the best decision in terms of one.
Mr. Courtney?
I think this is one question that is emblematic of the importance of experience in the court system. In setting a bond, it's important to understand the purpose of the bond, the Texas Constitution, the Code of Criminal Procedure. You must weigh the seriousness of the crime, the background of the individual, the flight risk, the ability to pay, the dangerousness to the community, and if there are any other conditions that are available to you under the Code of Criminal Procedure to ensure that the danger of the community is lessened and to ensure that the individual will show up at court. Like I said before, the relationship with the justice of the peace with the other parts of the system are crucial. Understanding what the district judges, what their typical conditions of bonds may be, what the county courts expect, what the district attorneys expect, and what the local bar expects. Some uniformity. I've been doing this for 21 years in over 60 counties in the state of Texas. I certainly understand what are fair and reasonable bonds. I also understand what are fair and reasonable conditions that accomplish all of the goals for all of the parties.
Mr. Elson?
Thank you. As a professor at Texas State in the School of Criminal Justice, I teach my students all about bail and the 8th Amendment. This is the Texas bail statute, right here, Article 1715. It has a criteria that need to be considered when bail is being set. When I first started teaching at Texas State, I went over to the jail and asked them for a copy of their standard bail schedule. They said, what? One does not exist for Hays County. I said, well, we have one in every county in Montana. They said, well, we don't have one here. And that's the problem, because judges don't have the legal experience, they don't do the research, can set bail anywhere they want. They shoot him from the hip. That's one of the biggest concerns that I've encountered when I've been going door to door. And when I'm elected, I am going to impose, or not impose, but enact a standard bail schedule. It has the criteria right there. Reasonable assurance that the undertaking will be complied with, should not be an instrument of oppression. Look at the nature of the offense and the circumstances. The defendant's ability to make bail is follow the statute. Thank you.
Mr. Scott, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal. Next question. Why do you want to be a justice of the peace? Ms. Moran?
Simply put, I want to serve my community. I, of all people, have seen the impact that a justice of the peace can have on their community. And that's something that I've wanted to step forward and do. I've been able to help the community through my works with public health, but this is giving me an opportunity to take the knowledge that I have of our community, my working knowledge of the criminal justice system, and to come in and for once, we will have the opportunity to, these courtrooms have never been combined. We have the opportunity to either start something new, or depending on who we have elected, we can also use that judge's experience. But I think if anything that we have learned, it's Judge Prado's staff has been there for a long time. They know what they're doing, and I trust that.
Ms. Lopez?
I think for me, it's pretty easy to answer this question. Serving as Justice of the Peace will allow me to combine two of my greatest passions, and that's the criminal justice system and serving my community. Being involved in criminal justice is not something that I just decided to get into. I've worked in the field for the last 10 years. I've specifically worked in the area of the Justice Court here in Hays County. I have firsthand working knowledge of that court, and I've been able to sit in that courtroom and help in that courtroom for individuals who don't speak English. I've provided interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking individuals so that they understand their rights. They understand what's going on in the courtroom. I've experienced that firsthand, seeing them be somewhat ashamed of not knowing the language. And I think that has given me a greater passion to pursue the legal field. Now, I've studied criminal justice at Texas State. I've worked in the field for the last 10 years, and this is just a natural progression for me. I feel to serve at a greater capacity. This will allow me to be in the community and be more proactive and be more reactive. So I just hope that we have your support. Thank you.
Mr. Courtney?
I'm not exactly sure I want to be the justice of the peace. But I feel like I need to at this particular point. no other lawyers were willing to announce. I felt it was important for me to do it. I felt that it was an opportunity for me to return many years of experience I've gained to my community in a way that I'm uniquely experienced to do. I'm not doing it because I want it. I'm doing it because I feel like I need to, and the job needs to be done. And I think I can do it if given the opportunity. Thanks.
Mr. Ellishoff?
Thank you. While I did enjoy the practice of law, once I became a justice of the peace in Montana, I realized that was the highest and best way that I could serve the people of my electorate. Okay? Serving as your teen court judge here, I've been able to do substantial justice to allow these children to do their community service and serve on the jury and to have their record expunged after a period of time. That's very rewarding to be able to do that. I've been able to reunite some families, Montana to Texas, and serving as a justice of the peace enables me to get to know everyone and to be able to bring them substantial justice, to bring that backlog curve. When I took over an unexpired term in Montana, there was a pile of cases there, and in about 3 weeks, I had them all resolved. We have a pile of cases now that were dumped on place one. I will resolve them in a very short period of time. Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
For me, it's pretty simple. Public service, being on city council just kind of gave me the bug. And it made me feel that it's something I'm going to continue to do the rest of my life. The JP position, I have firsthand experience actually trying cases just as an average citizen using the court system. And it actually came out victorious, but when I was going through the whole process, it really occurred to me how important it was that we have that right to do that. And we're not bogged down by legalities. I understand the attorney's side of it and how important they think, being ready to go is. But I truly believe you lose that edge of just the average person and their problems from day to day and how things affect them. And these lower courts, the JP courts, are the perfect opportunity to hear the entire truth. Where your higher courts get things suppressed and they're not allowed in, a JP court allows you to hear what an average citizen or a common sense person gets to hear finally. And you can rule accordingly. If they want to take it to the next court after that, that's fine. They want to spend the money, they test tracked it into JP court, they saw all the facts, and they may have won or lost and won't continue on to the next court. So it saves a lot of time for the average citizen to be able to use that system.
Mrs. Moreno, you have 30 seconds to rebut. Next question. What type of court hours would best serve the citizens of Hays County? Ms. Lopez?
I think we're in a very unique position here in San Marcos that we have 2 courts that serve the Precinct 1 area. Like another candidate in the other race mentioned, I work in the Buda office, and our JP's office opens early. They open before 8 a.m. and they close before 5 p.m. But in order to serve the community here in San Marcos, I would make it a point to work with the other justice of the peace and see if we could maybe do a staggered schedule where one of us would open early, the other would stay open a little later, just to provide that extra bit of time for the community to come in and do their business. Being in that system, working in the office daily, I see people who come and rattle our door at 4:30 when the JP has closed because they need to come pay a ticket and they can't get in. And a lot of them have taken time off of work. So we want to make sure that we make ourselves available to the community as much as possible, and we would work with the other JP to see what schedule works best for everyone.
Mr. Courtney?
I would join in a lot of those comments, actually. I think the hours could be expanded, certainly at least 1 day a week. The idea of an evening docket is appealing to me. Certainly working with other justice of the peaces and the commissioner's court to get something like that done. But that's the day-to-day business of the court. This job is not a 9 to 5. Police officers need things done after hours. Citizens need things done after hours. And it's important that they are able to get in touch with the justice of the peace to get that done. In talking to Judge Smith from Kyle, she impressed that upon me, which I understood. that she works long and hard. She doesn't just get up and have her coffee and come in and have banker's hours. She's out after midnight when we're asleep. The phone rings, JP's got to be willing to get up and go and do it. I've been doing that my entire legal career. The phone rings, you get up and you go do your job.
Mr. Elson?
It doesn't need to be just 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. 7/24, that's when we need to be available for the people of Hays County. Okay. I'm currently serving as a teen court judge, and that's a night court. I don't care, day or night, whenever, 7/24, it's that simple. In Montana, several times I was woken up in the morning about 1 a.m., deputy sheriffs were there, and I thought, oh no, what did I do? No, we just need you to sign this search warrant immediately. So I'd find my glasses and put them on, and I'd sign the search warrant and go back to bed. That's part of the job. We need to be available whenever there is a need. And San Marcos is expanding. The largest growing city in the United States of America. We're getting a big, I think it's an Amazon down on McCarty Avenue, and 104 acres back to Starbucks. Soon we're going to need a third JP for the San Marcos area, in addition to Wimberley, Kyle, and Buda.
Mr. Scott?
Obvious 24/7 is pretty much the state of the JP. But for me personally, I don't like to run in and just immediately start changing everything. I like to see what the people there that are doing their job and have been doing their job for a long time need, and what they're doing, whether it's the law enforcement, whether it's the staff, whether it's the administration, everybody that's involved, we need to see what they need first before we start changing things immediately. That's just my approach. But 24/7 for me personally to be out in the vehicles, obviously what it'd be.
Ms. Moreno?
I think all candidates have brought up good points, and that is that we need to reevaluate what the need is for the community. So it's hard to speak on that without trying something new. Although this may have been tried 3 years ago, we are a different city. We're bigger now, and we do need to accommodate those who maybe aren't afforded a job where they have the time to be able to take off work to go and pay court costs. So I think one of the important things that we need to do is work with our community, find out what they need, and be available to it.
Ms. Lopez, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I don't think there's really anything to rebut in this case. I just will reiterate that everybody has a good point. The Justice of the Peace is available, should be available to its citizens and to the law enforcement agencies in our area 24/7. And I do believe that that is something that I am willing and ready and able to do and provide for our citizens. I also believe that we will be able to use those relationships that I've built in the past with commissioners and other judges and other courts, especially the constable's office, to make sure that we're serving the community as effectively as we can during the time period we're allowed to.
Our final lead question. What issue do you consider the most important for the Hays County Justice of the Peace Office, and how would you address it? Mr. Courtney, would you please begin?
Well, this particular office, the biggest, priority or issue is simply getting it up and running and standing on its own 2 feet as quickly as possible. That's the most important thing. Judge Prado has had to deal with it for a long time, and getting in there and making its own court functioning in and of itself is paramount. And I think that my experience will help that happen quicker. Obviously, working in conjunction with Judge Prado, her staff, all of that is paramount. But that's, for this, right now, for this seat, that's the biggest priority. All of the other things, those will fall in line. But that's the most important thing right now.
Mr. Elson?
I agree, the backlog of cases needs to be brought through. It could have been handled differently, but it wasn't. They're all dumped on place one, and when I'm elected, I will bring that backlog of cases through. For many years, we've had 2 JP slots in the San Marcos voting precinct, not one. Okay? We need to still have 2, and as I indicated, we may need 3 in the near future as San Marcos continues to grow. Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
And that is true. San Marcos is growing at an incredible rate, and we're going to have an impact on our court systems and how many people and how many fines and problems we run through the whole process. Again, I'm all about whoever wins the other side. If I were to be elected to this side, then I would be more than happy to make sure that we're all working together at the end of the stage review plan, or to help the people who may have already had a role in it and basically caught everything up, to see what their input and what they need to make it more effective and more efficient.
Ms. Moran?
I agree with most of the candidates. The highest priority needs to be getting this court up and running. This court has not had a JP since April 30th of 2015, and it's time that we now go in and evaluate what the needs are. I think that whoever gets elected to this position needs to evaluate at the end of 2017, when we've had 2 full JPs in office and full staff, and evaluate the need if maybe we do need more staff, maybe we do need another JP. I think the most important thing is being open to change and figuring out the best way that we can combine these courts that benefits our citizens.
Ms. Lopez?
I would agree with Ms. Moreno. I believe that Mr. Courtney set this up just right. It's going to be very important that whoever does take this office has some working knowledge, not just of the criminal justice system, but of the Hays County government and the community in which it serves. I think it's going to be extremely important that we reestablish that office, get it up and running, take a bit of time to evaluate the staff, make sure that they're trained properly, that they feel confident, that they're very comfortable addressing the public and the community's needs that we have each day. So I really think that the most important issue is going to be to get the office up and running, make sure that we remain in compliance, and make sure that the staff is trained properly so that they can have the confidence to address every issue that comes to our.
Mr. Courtney, you have 30 seconds to read that.
No real rebuttal other than to reemphasize, I think it's important that whoever takes office has the capability to step in on day one and begin the job as judge. I think I'm prepared to do that.
Are there any questions from the audience for these candidates? I don't see any, so we'll move to closing statements. All of you have 1 minute to close, and we'll begin with Mr. Courtney.
Just briefly, I know I've been talking about my professional career, but I'm of here. I came here as quickly as I could. I don't come from wealthy stock, it's working stock. When I came here, I was in school, I worked my way through. I dug ditches, I dug fence holes, post holes, whatever it took. And then I went to law school, and I worked my family off. And I found my calling. And then I came back after climbing my trade and going around the state and seeing what works in all the different places, but more importantly, seeing what doesn't work. And I want to bring the things that do work back here. It's okay to look out to other places and see what works. And this is the right time to do that. It's a fresh start. I want to try to make this court work as good as it possibly can from day one.
Ms. Lopez?
I just want to thank everyone again for the opportunity to be here with you this evening and have you learn a little bit more about what it is that the JP Court does and what we as individuals hope to bring to that department. Once again, I'm a lifelong resident of San Marcos. I am involved in this community. I'm invested. I have 4 children who attend local schools here in this community, and I know what it is to have to struggle to be a mother, to be a student, to be a full-time employee, and to be an active member of this community. I have the tenacity, I have the drive, and I have the commitment to be able to execute the duties of this office proficiently, and I have the ability to do that long term. This is not something that is going to be a fly-by-night thing for me. It's something that I want to do. It's a commitment that I want to make long term, and I hope that you give me the opportunity to earn your vote. If you want to see me afterwards, I'd be happy to meet with you more personally. Thank you.
I believe in this community. I believe that the courts can work together with our schools, nonprofit agencies to improve the lives of individuals and families. I don't think it's an accident that problems encountered by people in their day-to-day lives create situations where they become part of the criminal justice system. I believe judges can work with other segments of this community and decrease the number of individuals that appear in our courts, and I pledge to work towards that end. And I would appreciate your support and your vote.
Mr. Scott?
Again, community and public service is something I find very, very important. I believe this JP position is best off with a new set of eyes, somebody that hasn't been perhaps immediately wrapped in it in one way or another, but is able to look at it from a fresh point of view. More importantly, the point of view from the people in the community that he's been here with, raised a family with, and has been serving for 5 years as a city council member. I think all the opponents here have very valid arguments, very valid, backgrounds, but I really think it's important to just have a very fresh look at, what our court systems are doing, and then try to make changes accordingly. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Elsoff?
Me llamo José Elsoff y también puedo hablar español. And I taught Spanish at adult education in Montana, and I also subbed in Spanish at San Marcos High School. Excellent. When I'm elected, one of my first orders is going to be to ban cedar from San Marcos. If I can get the other JPs to go along with me, it'll be all over Hayes County. And I make one campaign promise, that anyone who lets me put in a yard sign, I will do my best to take it out within 24 hours after the election. And I do want to thank all my fellow candidates for running a very clean and professional campaign. The things we see on TV, running for president and all that, it's too bad. But all the judicial candidates have excelled and set themselves above the rest. When the votes have been cast and the numbers are in, for 724 to the end of the race, I'm Elsoff for justice. I'm working for you. With your vote, I'll come in first place.